This is the Dell Optiplex 740. Welcome back to the workshop. I've picked up this system a while back. I wanted to make a video on it months ago, but I've had nothing but issues with it. The system cost me a grand total of roughly $7 US, but it has given me nothing but problems. I decided to pick it up because I really liked the aesthetics of the Dell Optiplex systems from the era, these BTX systems, and I've never had one of these, so I decided, hey, I want one. And I couldn't resist the price. So the system came in a pretty horrible state. It was very dirty and it stank very badly. It even had some living organisms inside, such as bugs, roaches, all kinds of stuff. It took me quite a while to clean it out completely, and it was sort of a nightmare, but I mean, that's what you get for the price. The reason the system was sold for so cheap was because it did not complete its PowerOn self-test. They did post a picture of the Dell boot screen, but it seems to have just hung there and it wasn't able to go forwards. I took it apart, cleaned it out completely, and the CPU was extremely hard to recover because it was essentially fused to the heatsink. I just ended up popping it off with maybe a screwdriver or something like that. I can't remember, but it was essentially fused together. It was really hard to remove. Because of this, I thought that I've actually damaged the CPU because it wasn't working properly anymore. I would sometimes get the system to completely just shut down and I would get an amber light on the power button. So after that, I decided to pop in my AM3 CPU because the system is special in a way that it supports more modern CPUs than what it advertises. This is an AM2 motherboard, but it can actually handle AM2 plus CPUs. But this is only the case if this is a Dell Optiplex 740 enhanced, and mine is. So I could go ahead and place my AM3 CPU in there, which was an AMD Athlon 2 X2 240. Now I found the forum where they were talking about how it supports all these CPUs. That's why I went ahead and did it. But it turns out that not everything is true what you read on the internet. I know it's a shock, but it is the case with this system. Well, it works with the CPU, and if you go into the BIOS, it will actually say AMD processor unknown model or something like that. I tried updating the opcode so that it would support the CPU, but I did not succeed. The reason I wanted to do that is because with this CPU, it would not boot if I had the RAM in a dual channel configuration. So I had to purposefully make it single channel to be able to boot. Now I thought that's not a good idea. Even though you can put a fast CPU in there, you can't have dual channel memory. I wasn't sure if it's this specific CPU that does not support it, or the system somehow just, if it's an unknown processor, it doesn't want to activate dual channel mode, which would make sense. So I thought it's the latter, and I decided to order an AM2 Plus CPU, which should work in dual channel mode memory. And this is an AMD Phenom X4 9600, which is an AM2 Plus CPU. It's not an AM3. You know, AM3 CPUs used to be backwards compatible with AM2 Plus, but this is just a strictly AM2 Plus CPU. So we're going to put that in, see if it works. I'm hoping that it does. And then, yeah, that's what this video is going to be about. I originally intended to make the system a fairly, reasonable system for doing stuff like streaming or maybe even playing video games. Because you could put a pretty decent CPU in there if it works in dual channel mode. But since I can only put in an AM2 Plus CPU, I'm going to turn it into my Windows XP retro gaming PC. So this should be really interesting. We'll be also giving it an AMD Radeon HD 4830 video card, which I've had laying around for a long time, and it's pretty useless for everything else. It'll be perfect for Windows XP, and because the drivers are really old for it, and that's just perfectly fine for XP. And yeah, we're gonna max out the memory as well. The system really just booted, no problem. I think I just had to reseed the memory. That was the only issue with it. It came with 2 1GB sticks of DDR2 Kingston, We're going to put in 8 gigabytes of DDR2. I know that Windows XP doesn't see that, but I will also put Windows 7 on it so that I can have Steam and I can install games on it. I have a 300 gigabyte notebook hard drive I'm going to put in it, and that'll be it. So let's get to working on it. So here it is. The system is all laid out. This video card, as you can see, this is a dual slot card. Even though it doesn't have any connectors on it, they felt the need to make a double height connection in the back. I really dislike that, because as you can see, it would fit perfectly in here, but it does not because of the of this panel here. I don't know what to call it, the shield, I guess. But yeah, if we could just put it in there. Let me remove this card first. So this is the GeForce 210, not a very fast card. So, oops, bit of tape, I don't know where that came from. This would fit just fine. If we push it all the way back, the cooler does clear the plastic shroud, so we would be able to put this in, but the back plate doesn't let us. So I thought to myself, why not take this card here? This is a GeForce TI 4800 or 4800 Ti. It's a Quadro card. As you can see, this one has the same layout as the other one, even though that's not an S-video connector. That's like some sync cable or something. I don't know exactly what it is. This is the same layout, so I should be able to just swap these panels. I don't really need this to be single anyways, because I usually don't put any cards right next to this card, so that the airflow doesn't get blocked by the other card. So I'm just going to swap this around, and it should fit right in. Now the other issue is the power. So this card it has about a 95 watt power consumption, and the PCI Express standard says that you cannot have more than 75 watts drawn. So we'll have to use one of these cables. This is a PCI Express to Molex. Now the problem is you can actually get SATA versions, but I don't have any of those currently. But what I have is another power supply. It's also a VTX Dell power supply. This is a little bit weaker than this. This one is about 300 watts. This is 230. Is what it's rated at, maximum continuous. But this whole system currently with the 210 was using about 90, up to like 98 watts with a dual core CPU. We're getting a quad core, so there's going to be a bit more power used. And also the video card's going to use, I believe, 60 more watts than the GT210. So that's going to be roughly 100 watts extra. So we'll be running at around 190 watts. I think that should be still fine. Now the only concern I have is that the 12 volt rail is a lot weaker in this one, so I'll have to keep an eye out on it. I'll be seeing if this is good enough. If not, I might just end up hacking this one. Maybe like chop off the floppy cable and convert that to power for the video card. Because we don't really need much. We need like what, 20 watts extra. 1.2 amps or something. Anyways, that's what we're gonna do now. So we'll be first of all removing the bracket or whatever, replacing it, fitting the card in, and then also replacing the power supply. So let's get to it. As you can see, the video card fit perfectly. The heatsink does touch the heatsink of the North Bridge here, but it should be fine. And yep, I converted it to single bracket. Just gotta see if it's going to work out. The reason I picked this video card, this HD 4830, I had it for years, and there's just really no good use for it. No other good use for it other than this. It's I also have a 4850. That's a 1 GB card. The reason I didn't put it in is because we're already short on power, and that's, I believe it's about 20 watts more power consumption than this card, and that 20 watts does matter. It's a 512 megabyte 4830. Doesn't support DirectX 10. It doesn't support DirectX 11. It supports DirectX 10.1. The drivers are awful because AMD just dropped support after about 4 years. So the newest drivers you can get for this are 13.9 on Windows 7 and 14.4 on Windows XP. So they're 7-year-old by now. So this system will not be really playing anything newer than 7-year-old games anyways. So this video card is a perfect fit. We'll not be playing Windows 10 games. We'll not be playing DirectX 11 games here. Only XP and the occasional Windows 7 games. And for that, this video card will do perfectly fine. Finally, it has a good home because it was just lingering around without any purpose. Because who would want such an old piece of shit video card? Anyways, let's get on to some testing. So finally I've received the CPU, and I've taken out the AM3 CPU because it was recognized as an unknown processor, unknown model, and I believe that's why the dual channel mode did not work with the memory. At least I think so. So like, I had two theories. Either the CPU I was trying to use in it, which was the Athlon 2 X2 240, has a faulty DDR2 dual channel controller and only one channel works on it, or the motherboard only enables single channel if the processor is unknown, which sounds to me like the more reasonable solution. But so that's why I ended up going with an AM2 Plus CPU instead of an AM3 CPU. If I end up getting an AM3 CPU at some point, I might try it in the system, but I wanted to go safe, and yeah, this CPU is alright. I got a pretty good deal on it. It cost me next to nothing. So this is a Phenom 9600. Phenom X4 9600. So it's a 4-core CPU at 2.3 GHz, 512 kilobytes of cache per core, and I believe it's a 2 megabyte L3 cache. So it's a little bit less and slower than the Phenom 2, which I would have preferred using, but it's going to be faster with dual channel memory because single channel DDR2 is incredibly slow. I'm just using some Cooler Master thermal paste. I really don't have a lot left. I've ordered some, but it hasn't arrived yet. And then we just put our heatsink back on. It's very simple. This one is just held on by 2 screws. If I wasn't a complete moron, and I would actually try to put it on the right way. And I keep forgetting this. That's the second time I've done this. If I'm doing it on video, I tend to forget to put the latch down. I've done that on a video before. Don't know which one. Excuse me, I'm a little bit sleep deprived, so that could have a role in this as well. Hoping I've not like put it on top of any cables. I'm gonna look at it from the side. I don't really see it. No, it looks fine. Okay. And then we take the screwdriver that I have not here. But thanks to the magic of video editing, I can just... much better. Alright. So just going to go ahead and screw in those 2 screws Making sure it's not actually, hang on, something's not right. Making sure I apply roughly the same amount of torque on each screw, so I just keep switching back and forth. Don't need it to be super tight. Alright, that should be good enough. We'll look at the temperatures anyways. So here's the finished product. Unfortunately, not everything went to plan. I wasn't able to use the Phenom X4 9600 CPU. It did boot, and it did work. The system recognized it, but for some reason, it would not work with dual channel memory. But it was different than when I was using the AM3 CPU. What happened was, for some odd reason, even if I had the memory in dual channel configuration, it would not enable dual channel mode. It's not something that you can enable with these Dell systems. So the only CPU so far I was able to get dual channel working was with the original one, which is an AMD Athlon 64X2 5400B. So that's exactly what's in there right now. I put the original CPU back in. I've given up. This CPU is going to be plenty fast enough for this. The reason I did not want to use it is because I thought it was broken. But then I was thinking, maybe it's just not making good enough contact. So I tightened the screws very hard on the heatsink so that it pushes it down, and there you go. It's been working perfectly. So it lifted up from the socket, and that's why it did not work. But now it's working perfectly with the original AMD CPU. So with the Phenom X4 9600, I was having instability issues. Some programs would just randomly close. Tabs in Firefox would just crash. Things like that. I've given up on it. I'm going to move on. Go back to the original CPU. It'll be perfectly fine for Windows XP. And I've also put in an extra hard drive. Originally, I only wanted to use one hard drive, the 300 gigabyte. I think it's a Toshiba hard drive, but I had some issues installing Windows XP on it. I would always get blue screens of death, even though I was installing with the SATA hard drive's adapter, the HCI adapter, but it just did not work. So it turns out that I needed a different driver for it, but I wasn't able to load that one during the install, so I just kind of gave up. So there's a 20 gigabyte hard drive in it, which has Windows XP on it, and the 300 gigabyte hard drive has Windows 7 and the games installed. So I think that's a pretty good setup. So like I said, the reason I have Windows 7 is that I can have Steam, because Steam does not function on Windows XP anymore, unfortunately. There used to be an old build of it from November 2018, which had the auto updates disabled, but that one doesn't connect to the servers anymore, and you're unable to play your games. But this way I can download games on Windows 7 to play them on Windows XP, so that's pretty good. So the final configuration is same motherboard, obviously, Dell Optiplex 740, with an AMD Athlon 64X2 5400B at 2.8 GHz. The difference between this and the newer CPU is that this is the K8 architecture. Newer one is the K10 architecture. So it's a little bit faster, that one, but it didn't work properly. So right now I have dual channel working perfectly fine with 8 gigs of RAM. Windows XP only sees 3, 7 sees all the 8 gigabytes. The video card works perfectly fine. The AMD Radeon HD 4830, well actually it's probably an ATI at the time, it was still ATI. it works fine. The power supply that I put in can perfectly handle it. And what else is there? Really, that's it. So let's get to it. Let's play some games. This is the first time I'm using this camcorder, so I hope that everything will be fine. I'm going to just go ahead and try to zoom in on the monitor and hope that it will work just fine. So currently I'm just using this 22-inch Full HD monitor. Eventually I will switch to a 17-inch. 17-inch. But I will be using the same resolution as I'm using here. So I have the aspect ratio set to that, and it's running in 1280 by 1024. So I'm going to get into some games. I'll be using the built-in Dell speaker. Hopefully it's going to be loud enough. I'm not quite sure. We'll have to see. I'm going to run MSI Afterburner, which I've installed. This one is, just to see the CPU usage, GPU usage, and the frame rate. It cannot connect to the server, it doesn't really matter. So, I've got a couple of games right here. Just a few games I've installed quickly. So let's get to it. We have Quake 4. Every game is going to run in 1280 by 1024 resolution, because the 17-inch monitor I'm going to be using with this system uses that resolution. So if I press the End key, okay, we can see it right there. So do we have a save file? Oh, we do. Okay. Map start. Now let's try checkpoint. Okay. This one is an OpenGL game. And, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I'm using Catalyst 9.3 drivers with the ATI card, because I think the older the better in this case. It will have a lower system requirement, and also some of the newer AMD drivers have screwed up specific things. Like, I know some games with the latest AMD driver for this, which is the 14.4 on Windows XP, have texture issues, whereas if I use an older one, like right now 9.3 from 2009, that one is able to display textures perfectly in those games. So here we go, Quake 4. It's a Doom 3 engine game, so but it's from 2005. This game actually also has a Macintosh port for PowerPC CPUs. So here we go. We're getting 60 FPS. It seems like I have VSync enabled. I'm not sure if I can turn it off. We're playing on ultra quality as well. Vertical sync is, well, it's apparently off, but maybe for OpenGL we have it forced. But yeah, getting smooth 60 FPS. That's all I need, really. Looks pretty smooth and looks great. If I had a Pentium 4 system, it would not be able to play this game properly. It would struggle, that's for sure. So, quickly going to move on to the next game. We have Painkiller, which is one of my favorites. Oh, it requires the CD. That's amazing. Okay, we'll get back to it in a bit. I have it right here. Some of these games just, for some reason, they require the CD. It's an old trend. I've got a really old game here called Mecha Rally 2. I mean, this should work just fine. But it's just to showcase that, you know, I can play very old games as well, just fine. Although, there's an interesting thing about this game. In the options, you can enable environment maps. And if you put it on cubic, it's going to run slower. If I put it on cubic, I get like 30 to 60 FPS. Which is really weird. Even, like, I tried it with much slower cards. from the time period, and they cannot run this game at all with the cubic setting. Like you'll get like 5 FPS or even lower. This one gets around 30 to 60. With bump maps, I get 60, so I'm just going to keep it that way. Just do a quick arcade rally here in Italy. I'm going to insert the. Oops, should insert the painkiller disc as I'm driving. Multitasking. As you can see, it runs perfectly. Although MS Afterburner is unable to display the overlay with this game. Yep, as expected, runs perfectly. Okay, let's try Painkiller now. This should work. Alright, here we go. I always love this intro. Though we're running an ATI card, so not quite accurate, but you'll see it. It runs it perfectly fine. So settings all maxed out, everything. I'm probably going to play through this game again on this system, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I've recently played the Xbox version, and it's quite a disappointment because it's missing a lot of levels that I love. And here we go, 190, 200 FPS. I mean, this system is able to just blast through any Windows XP game, that's for sure. And we have anti-aliasing is put to, I believe it's on 6x multi-sampling, so that's quite nice. Yep, 200 FPS, it's just pretty smooth. I think there's a gun here somewhere. Where is it? Oh, it's here. Alright. During action it slows down to around 100 FPS, but still perfectly playable. This game is a classic. Alright. Now let's check out another one. I have Far Cry here. For some reason, this one loads very, very slowly. I'm thinking maybe it's because I have it set to... You know, this is a dual-core CPU, and a lot of games from the time prefer a single-core, but I'm not sure, actually. It seemed to have loaded a lot quicker this time. Maybe it was just the initial load. I've got everything maxed out. Water quality also on Ultra, which you can only do on Windows XP, I believe. So let's just start a new campaign. So this loading screen took a very long time when I first tried it. It seems a lot better now. So whatever was the issue was just the first time loading, I suppose, and should be good from now on, which is good. Still loads a little bit slowly, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. I mean, the first time I played this game was the demo version on a very, very underpowered system with the 1 GHz CPU. It ran like absolute crap. Compared to that, we have 200 FPS right now. in here, but it's probably going to slow down a little bit once we leave the place. It's all maxed out. You know, at the time when this game came out, they had F164s and Pentium 4s. For the longest time, I thought a Pentium 4 system is the ultimate Windows XP system, but it's a very slow CPU, and honestly, you know, people's expectations have changed. You know, people expect a lot higher FPSs. Back then, we were just aiming for 30 to 25 FPS, and that's what you get with Pentium 4. Sometimes even lower than that. A couple of years ago, I played through Doom 3 on a Pentium 3 system, and it was horrible. It slowed down so much. It was very annoying. So at that point, I decided, okay, Pentium 4 is just not enough for Windows XP games. I don't know. It ran absolutely horribly. So I stand by this point that a Core 2 Duo or an F164X2 system like this one is it just hits the spot. With the dual core F164, you get the advantage of 2 cores and less slowdowns, because, you know, a single core CPU can get a bit, you know, chuggy a little bit, and you might have some trouble running some games. But with the dual core, this issue is eliminated, and that's amazing. So yeah, this game seems to run pretty well. I'll be looking forward to playing through this game on this system. It's going to be great. I haven't played it in a really long time. I also have Far Cry 2 on here, although this one is from 2009, and to be honest, that's what the hell is this? We don't need that. In 2009, you have this video card is from 2008. The whole system is from around 2008. So it can power through any Windows XP games, but this one may just be a little bit too much for it. It runs okay, but you know, I would probably rather play this game on another system, because this game would run fine on a Windows 7 system as well. I think would be perfectly fine. And I'm slowly going to run out of memory card space, so I'll have to probably plug in another memory card. I need to get myself more memory cards, or like a bigger one for this camcorder. I'm currently just using a 4GB one, so I'm going to run out of it soon. Yeah, just let's see how it runs. I think I have everything maxed out, so probably going to get around 30 FPS most likely. I remember playing this game. This was one of the first games I played on my HD 4850 when I bought it in 2008. So actually, no, wait. This is a 2008 game, not 9. Yeah, so it's the same year as this card, I think. And yeah, there's no such thing as you can't put a video card in a Dell Optiplex system that needs extra power, because you can just get adapters and it will work fine. If you use your brain and don't overshoot, then it's going to be just fine. It looks like we're getting around 30 FPS. It could be better for sure. If I tweak the settings, I could probably get better speed, but I could also just play it on another PC. But I mean, yeah, I might play through it like this. I'm not sure yet. But yeah. So yeah, that was that. We also have a couple more games here. I have this one here, which is Need for Speed Undercover, which might need the CD, hopefully not. Though, yeah. The reason I have this one and not any other Need for Speed games is just because I had this laying around and I've never played it, so I decided to put it on and see what it's like. Looks like you can't skip through the intros. Oh yeah, I've actually tried this game once. I was changing graphical settings and then it crashed, so it might not work. I don't know, something's wrong with it. This game. is that, I mean, it has a reputation for not being very good, so I wouldn't be surprised if it has to do something with that. But I was curious. I did manage to up some of the settings, so it's in 1280 by 1024, because when you first boot it, it just runs in the lowest settings possible. It is running in higher settings than that now, and we're getting around. It's funny that the CPU 2 is 100%, but the first one is not. This is something you can't skip. But we're getting 100 FPS here, so let's see. Yeah, like I said, this game is from very late 2008. So this is actually the era of this system, which it's actually a good showcase to see how well it copes with these games. And yeah, we're getting a bit of a slowdown here. Maybe I need to turn down the anti-aliasing. I did put it on maximum. Maybe I kind of overshot it. I should have not done that. So here in options, I should put anti-aliasing a bit lower, because I mean it's fine if it's off. And I'm not sure which setting was it. So we're getting around. Actually, I'm wondering maybe it's a CPU limit. Maybe we're CPU limited on this game. So yeah, world effects. Okay, I did manage to put it on high. I think when I did that, the game just crashed. So I've got everything maxed out right now. Oh, except for cars, actually, wait. No, wait, it's on high. Because the game, for some reason, boots in the lowest settings. I have no idea why. Car damage off, I guess. Smoke on. Alright. So now we have it maxed out. And let's see what kind of frame rates we're getting. So yeah, we're getting 45, 50. I was expecting a bit higher because this CPU is not that old. It's like 2007 maybe, the CPU, something like that. It's one of the latest Athlon 64X2 CPUs, so it's the end of the K8 generation. It's not as fast obviously as K10, but it should be able to handle this pretty well. Oh, it looks like, okay. I went past the 30-minute mark on the camera, so it seems to be still working. Yeah, the game runs okay, but not perfectly, this one. Now, here's Crysis. And does it run Crysis? You know, the long-lasting meme. I've not tried it yet. This one I've not booted it yet, so this is the first boot. We'll see if it does. Hoping it does. I'm gonna keep looking at my camera to see if it doesn't turn off. Stop the recording, because who knows how low we're running on the memory card. I hope the video will not be corrupted because it's over 30 minutes. Alright. Oh yeah, there you go, 2200 FPS. I think we're gonna be fine. I don't have a Core 2 Duo, or Core 2 Extreme. That CPU is kind of a waste of money. The whole system cost me $7. Let me play Crysis. There we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and probably max everything out. Wait, it's 2007 game, right? Crysis run okay, roughly around 30 FPS. I would probably not want to play on it because I just realized its DirectX 10 is why I couldn't set it to very high. But it, nonetheless, it still runs Crysis quite okay. So if you really want to, you can do that. Last but not least, we're going to check out Half-Life 2, which is a real classic from 2007, this version, because this is the Steam version. I've downloaded it on Windows 7, and you can just run the exe. It's DRM free. It just works. And there you go. And funnily enough, even though I couldn't get Steam to work on Windows XP, I could even reach the Steam the Steam cloud saves and actually use those. As you can see, this is we don't go to Ravenholm thing. I can just go ahead and load that. And let's see what kind of frame rate we're getting. So everything is maxed out, 1280 by 1024. And here we go. 130 FPS. Now, on a Pentium 4, you would get around 40 FPS in this game, so that's exactly why I wanted a system like this. FPS inside, pretty good. So yeah, this is just just wanted to showcase to you what you can do with a system like this, a Dell Optiplex 740. I turned it into a pretty cool Windows XP retro gaming PC, and looking forward to playing a lot of cool games on it. Just make sure you don't believe everything you read on the internet, and because some people just have absolutely no clue what they're talking about, and don't actually test things properly. So all of my CPU upgrading adventure was completely a failure. I could not get the system to work with anything but AM2 CPUs properly. So yeah, all I can say is forget about AM2 Plus and AM3 CPUs for this system. It won't run in dual channel mode, or it will be very unstable. So, but thankfully, it's a happy end. The system seems to be working just fine, playing games fine, even with the video card that requires more power than the system was originally designed for. And yep, hope you liked the video, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye bye.